Perfect.
What it means that the hat trick of reviews is still on.
It's on. It's on. It's on.
Come on, Wokesy.
Oh, that umpire has given those both out. He's not going to put this on his CV, is he? Really? No, I never did that match. Never did that match. No.
3 balls.
Oh, I'd love to see 3 DRSs in a row. That would complete my.
Okay, messages in appraising our performance today, says DRS making a strong comeback on the report card. It's now a B.
I think everyone wants to see this, don't they?
Yeah, they're cheering Wokesy.
Yes.
Another Yorker on the pad. Come on.
Come on, I said we should have a hat-trick jingle before.
Here he comes, Wokes for the DRS.
Oh.
What's he done?
He's going to get it. Oh, no.
He's sort of. That's the. What do you call that? The ramp shot.
The
ramp shot, which Wahab didn't look too confident about, but it has gone for a single.
I thought for a moment he was going to be caught by the man at short, fine leg, but he didn't seem bothered, actually.
Oh, and he's reviewed it. No, he came off the pad. He's got the single.
He should have reviewed. Yeah, if that had been called, that would have been fun.
There is nothing to stop him actually reviewing that, is there? He'd off the middle of the bat and then review it just for a laugh.
I could do, yeah. That would be fun. That'd be his last ball he faces, won't it? Oh, there's only... Well, no, maybe not. There's 2 balls left.
2 balls left. No fan on strike. He hasn't swung his bat and anger yet.
No, he hasn't. I would like to see his levers in action.
Blake Picker feels sorry for the umpire. He just wants a brew.
In fact, there is not a mark on Irfan's bat. It's
trying to keep it
pristine.
That way.
And here he comes. Wokes in the bowl. Irfan eyeing him up, eagle-eyed, and swings.
Oh!
I think we can actually say that finally he's going to review that. No,
another decent Yorker from Wokes to finish off then.
Done very well, hasn't he?
To the off stump.
But it was not your fault but mine, and it was your heart on the line. I really fucked it up this time, didn't I, my dear? Didn't I, my dear?
Well, Wokes has made an amazing comeback after going 6 ODIs without a wicket. His last 2 performances have been top-notch, haven't they?
Yeah.
Really good.
Rafai Mahmood says, who is this umpire? Ravi Nair says, hi all, sorry I'm late, the commute home was a bugger. Are we going to get more pics of Gorilla Ian? Please, you sure will throughout the day. Not Fred Titman says, this umpire should forfeit his post-match medal. And Messi Jez said, there were 17 DRSs in the Perth test. The umpire decision upheld in every one.
Really? Oh, that's incredible.
Now, folks and soaks, it is lunch, and we are delighted to have Richard with us today. We have prepared a little to grill you. I think that Hendo is just going into the studio to find his notepad. Do you want to take us through the morning's events, Richard, for our listeners? Is that? Do you want me to press pause?
I can do that. You want me to go for it? You mean events in the cricket, presumably? Okay. None of the off-mic stuff. No, we'll keep that for another day. Well, it was a pretty good start from Pakistan. They went very kind of sedately forward. They just it felt like they were in control of the bowling. The wickets didn't fall early. The English bowlers were getting nothing from the pitch. Azam and Ali started off confidently. Hafiz came in, looked $1 million, but then. I'm afraid the run-outs were what really started the rot. And if you look at a card like that, there are 1, 2, 3 run-outs, and that is a lot at this level. And they weren't run out by a millimetre either. They were stranded, utterly stranded, the batsmen, as if they're not talking to each other, they don't like each other. And if that wasn't true before, it is certainly true now. And then once the upper order had gone, very little resistance. Wahab at the end, 33, not bad.
Pretty useful.
Yeah, a few agricultural hoiks for the maximum, but very little resistance there in the middle order. And as I think some of our tweeters were saying, it looks like an English scorecard.
In fact, I was going to say it looks like an English scorecard from the first one-day international, because if you remember, I think it was Wokes coming down at 9 or 10 who picked up 30-odd in right towards the end. Well, I say right towards the end, he actually had to bat quite a while, as Wahab Riaz, to actually make them, well, more or less get to the limit of their 50 overs. At one point, what, they were 164 for 8, something like that. I mean, they could have easily been bowled out for 170, 175. So 208 is a minor victory for them, I would say. I don't think they've got any chance, but...
No, if England don't win from here, and you've heard those words before,
many a
but
time.
this is a game which you'd have to say, with English understatement, is winnable.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I think the thing is that obviously when you're batting first, you don't quite know what a good score is going to be. And so you're chasing the runs, whereas once you know that a team has only made 208, you can pace yourself to a certain degree. So you don't really need to lose wickets playing over-ambitious shots because we're looking at basically a 4 and over run chase. And, you know, that really, even on these slow pitches, that should be easily enough done, easily enough reached.
If Pakistan want a bit of encouragement, and any supporters out there was a bit of turn for Rashid in particular. A good spinner might get something out of this. Pakistan also have a wicketkeeper who can catch the ball and take the bails off when the batsman is out, which is quite a big advantage. And in fact, Rashid must be getting a bit fed up with Butler, I'd say, because he's the one who seems to always lose out. And if you are a leg spinner and you haven't got a good wicketkeeper, you're going to lose a lot of wickets.
That said, there was one in the Test match, wasn't there, where on the final morning of the third Test, I think it was Mohammed Hafiz was on. Was it the final morning or was it the fourth morning? Was on 97, was trying to get that 100 in that over, and he had bowled a beautiful googly, which he'd come a long way down the wicket for 2, and Bairstow completely misread it as the leg break, and it just went straight past him. I mean, that was quite crucial, really. I mean, he would have been out for 97. He went on to get 151. England might have easily wrapped up the innings earlier than they did. Yeah, but there you go. There are I'm just looking at the scorecard. 1 for 45 for Willie, 1 for 41 for Topley. Wokes, standout performer, 4 for 40, just one short of his 10 overs. Only 5 bowlers used today. Rashid, none for 51 off 10, but he could have easily had a wicket or 2. Moeen Ali. See, Moeen Ali ends up with brilliant figures. 10 overs, no maidens, 1 for 30. You've got to say, Rashid does look like one of those people who's always going to be, unlucky.
I mean, it was one of the kind of standout moments of the game, in a sense, just because from a cricketing point of view. I mean, they couldn't even replay the mis-stumping because it took too long. On to the next ball. I mean, they could have had a drinks break in the time he fumbled the ball and the time the batsman was out of his crease. It really was.
It was almost like a double fumble, wasn't it? He thought he was eventually going to bring it down and take the stumps off, but then it went on even longer. Yeah. It was almost as if it got caught up sort of in his clothing to some degree. Anyway, 208. It's something of a target. Atif, any thoughts on this? Are you completely devastated by this performance? Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
The kebab looked good though. So swings and roundabouts.
Good kebab. Well, there we go. That's the first innings over and done with. We'll be back to commentate on that in about how long do they normally take now? About half an hour. Half an hour or so. So that gives us time to not grill a gorilla, but grill the new man. That's Richard Beard, who is one of the authors, or plays in the authors team. Highest score this year, apparently, 115. Lies, I tell you, lies. No?
It was 115, but a 2 innings game.
A 2 innings game?
After a 3-ball duck in the first innings. So it was very sweet.
Who did you play a 2 innings game against?
Well, it was on the longest day. It's the solstice. So we went down to Avebury. We danced naked for a bit. Okay. And then we went out to play. We had a police presence, which is always nice to stop the hippies running onto the pitch. Right. And we played a 2 innings game, which was an invention of some fine cricket minds.
Right.
And I can't quite remember the formula now, but it worked very well. It was basically 2 T20s with a bit more than that on the first innings, so about 25 overs each in the first innings, with a possible 30, and then we ended up batting about 20, 22 overs in the second innings.
And you hit 115 in a 22-over innings?
Yes,
pretty good going.
I'm trying to. I do think it was to do with ley lines and some special power in the pitch, because very unlike me. And we were playing with a pink ball. So that was another novelty. So it was a very exciting day, really.
Were you wearing coloured clothing?
We weren't. We were white. We felt it was more druidic to be there in white.
I suppose it would be, yes.
And there was a druid who walked around the boundary with a full crook and the hooded cloak. I don't know whether he said any kind of spells for us, but again, something happened on that day. We lost the game.
So how many? You lost the game after scoring 115 in a 22-over.
Well, they had a South African professional who managed to score 250, so 1 in each innings.
Right.
In a way which just suggested he didn't respect our bowlers very much.
So what were the playing times? When did you start?
We would have started about the same time as you would for an all-day game. I think we started about 11. And instead of going for one endless innings where the fielding team get fed up and everyone wonders why they're there and there's so many better things to do, having the 2 innings kept it alive. Went to the pub at lunchtime. So there was a little bit of a boost there. Then you had tea again, so 2 meal breaks again, keeps everyone interested. And it worked very well.
This could be the future for cricket, I think.
I've always thought that when you have a very, very one-sided game that finishes a bit early, then the best thing to do is that you should at that point say, yeah, okay, you won the 1 innings game, but now let's carry on, have a 2 innings game. So if you bowl the side out for 50 and then you're 50 for no wicket and you've won, then carry on batting for a bit, set them a target and stick them in.
Well, I think
that's a better use of the time than playing a beer match.
And it requires a little bit of judgment on the part of the stronger team to try and manufacture a result, which has always been part of friendly cricket.
Exactly. It keeps it alive, doesn't it, a bit longer, and it gives the weight with the beer match. If you've just been thrashed in the first game, you haven't really got anything to play for in the beer match. It's not. You don't really feel like you've made it better.
No, well, beer matches are often a little bit unsatisfactory just because the team which thrashed you in the main match then thrashes you in the beer match. So you get your punishment twice.
Although we must remember that most of the money coming into cricket now is for the glorified beer match.
Yeah, true. That is true. Anyway, moving on. We must move on to that because we're going to talk to Richard about, writing and things like that. Katie has in her hands, or on her lap, Richard's latest book. So when he's not scoring 115 for the authors, he even finds time to write books. What sort of madness is this, Richard? Why do you write books, and what do you hope to get out of it, apart from money?
Well, that would be a hopeless motivation. I don't think that's why many people do it. I think people would do it because of various psychological deficiencies, probably just short of illness, but it becomes a way of recording your views of the world, and therefore you need that kind of rampant egotism which suggests that your views need recording, and then there it is in book form, and then later on when you've had a few books, that's my 9th book, you can go back and argue with yourself and realise how wrong you were when you were younger, and just try and update your views as you go along.
So that's quite interesting, is the notion that your views change. So when you look at books that you wrote, I don't know, when you first started writing books, how long ago did you write your first book, say?
96, my first book came out. So it's been a while. In fact, I don't read them through. I don't know many writers who do sit down and read their own books. That would be quite odd, I think.
Well, you probably had enough of it when after you've sort of recraft. I mean, I don't know how easy do you find it to get things right first time, or do you have to rewrite a lot?
Oh, I'm a big rewriter. Yeah. Right. The first drafts are burnt and buried, so no one can see them. But the first books feel like distant friends, really. They're there. There's something to do with you, but at the same time, they're quite detached, I think.
So you say you don't read the whole thing again, but do you read the whole thing from beginning to end before it goes off to the printing press?
Oh yeah. I mean, when you're on your latest book, you'll be fully into it and all over it, and you'll know everything backwards, and you'll read it several times all the way through. But once it's gone, when it comes back actually as a book, for example, I won't read through the book.
No.
So the last time I send it off is really the last time I look at it.
How big a change do you have to make for you to then think, oh God, I'm going to have to read the whole thing again just to see how that one sentence added or changed or removed has had an effect on the whole book?
Well, I think by the time you get to the last stage, you ought to really be looking at your own book and thinking, I'm quite looking forward to reading this because it's really good. And if you're not thinking that, then maybe you need to change more than a single word. If you're coming back to it and thinking, oh my God, I don't want to do this, there'll be a reason for that, and that means you're not quite as near the end as you thought you were.
But you kind of bridge the divide. You're both fiction writer and non-fiction writer. You don't get too many people who have books published in both spheres, do you?
I think there probably are increasing numbers, just because novels, or certainly on the literary end of novel writing, it's slipping closer and closer towards poetry in terms of its reception, how many readers there are, and therefore the financial rewards. And one way to use your writing skills to actually make some money is to write non-fiction. And I've done books on rugby, on sport generally. I went to Australia to try and find out why they're so good at sport. Obviously cracked that one, and a book about a friend of mine who transitioned from from a man to a woman. So you find new subjects all the time. Yeah.
I like the phrase slipping towards poetry, not in the sense becoming more and more artistically valid, but making no money.
Yeah, slipping into the abyss is what I really mean.
In the financial sense of poetry.
Yeah.
So, right, the book that you've written most recently is a work of fiction. It's called Act of the Assassins, is that right? Acts of the Assassins. Sorry. That's probably crucial, isn't it, the fact that it's Acts of the Assassins?
It is, because it uses the material from Acts of the Apostles and reframes it as a modern police procedural, because the apostles, so this is the name for the disciples after Jesus disappears, were all martyred in very gruesome ways, and the ways in which they were killed were elaborated with great glee in the Middle Ages, and they are spectacularly horrible ways to die. Sawn in half, for example, skinned alive.
Sawed in half while living? Is that
yes, that was a medieval torture, which was just transposed onto one of the disciples. The key to it in the Middle Ages was to string someone up by their feet and then to cut them in half from the groin downwards, on the understanding the blood would continue going to their head, so they'd feel pain for longer.
Jeez. We were talking about this the other day.
We
about
were.
What took us onto that
well,
subject?
it was because we were talking about that old chestnut that every English school teacher likes, that, hanged as opposed to hung.
Oh, yeah,
You're
yeah,
hanged.
yeah.
And we were saying that if you're hung upside down, if you're a human and it's not to be hanged, if you're just hung upside down, so we talk about hanging, what's it called? Hung, drawn and quartered.
Yeah.
Is that, are you hung as opposed to hanged?
Yes, because no one ever says hanged, drawn and quartered, do they?
Yeah,
it's always
exactly.
hung, drawn and quartered.
Well, I'd suggest that the person who is going through the process probably is not that bothered.
Anyway, yes, we find ourselves on medieval torture again. This is a lot of fun, isn't it?
But in the Middle Ages, they loved those stories. They were bestsellers, and it was great to have the apostles as the target for this, because, of course, their suffering was for the greater glory of God. So it made it a kind of virtuous way of, in fact, writing the kind of schlop which people love even today. And in fact, the way they die is very similar to the ways that serial killers will go about their business in popular fiction today. So I put those two things together. And so the apostles are there, the police procedural is there, the serial killer element is there, and that's the assassins of the title, and it all comes together in a very nice way, I think.
It does. I mean, sorry, James.
Is Theophilus a character in it? Because in the original Acts of the Apostles, it's written to Theophilus, isn't it? Which was always, when I was a little chorister, it was always our favourite bit, was when you got the opening of either the Acts of the Apostles or St Luke's Gospel, because when he addresses Theophilus by name, because we found the name hilarious, mainly because of Lenny Henry's character Theophilus P. Wildebeest, which was the only instance of Theophilus that we knew about. Did he do it? Am I ruining the whole book?
Theophilus is not in it. But another thing that's striking about Acts of the Apostles, the book of the Bible, is it starts out, so Paul is kind of narrating this story, and it starts out being about the disciples, but very quickly it becomes about Paul. He takes over the story. And in fact, if you want to go and find out information about the apostles and apocryphal information, this kind of gaudy, extravagant information about the apostles, you have to go quickly away from the Acts of the Apostles and get into medieval hagiographies. That's the best place to go. Books like The Golden Legend. The 13th century is the heyday of these.